Ever get sucked into a story? One that just sticks with you. Makes you kind of look over your shoulder, you know? Like, what's really out there?
Totally. Those stories get under your skin, make you think twice about everything.
Exactly, and that's what we're doing today. Taking a deep dive into a story that'll send chills down your spine. It's called Escaped a Murderer when I was 8 years old.
Whoa. That title alone is enough to give you goosebumps, like something straight out of a nightmare.
Right. It takes us back to 1988 in Bloomington, Indiana. Our narrator, Jackie, she's 8, a bookworm, kind of keeps to herself, finds comfort in stories, but this summer, her life is about to become one.
And that setting, the Midwest, all those wide open spaces but small towns, adds to the whole eerie vibe. Like, danger can be anywhere.
You got that right. So picture this. Jackie's walking home from school, along the railroad tracks, same route every day. But then this group of older kids shows up, including Dustin, who's been picking on Jackie.
Oh, red flag right there. Older kids, especially one who's already a bully, it's like a horror movie waiting to happen.
The tension is thick, right? They talk her into going into the woods, saying they found something cool, you know? Jackie, she's hesitant, but curious, so she follows them, deeper and deeper, until they reach this hidden cave.
And the cave, man, it's like a symbol of being trapped. The way she describes it, a metal chair, some rope inside, gives me chills just thinking about it.
You could practically feel the darkness closing in, right?
Yeah.
The other kids are there too. Casey, Kevin, Mariah, and Clint. They were all tough at first, but now they're not so sure, like they're realizing they messed up.
Yeah, that change in their attitude is what makes it so scary. They're not just bullies anymore, they're scared too, like they got in over their heads.
Exactly. And then as things are getting really intense, boom, a huge thunderstorm breaks out. Thunder so loud it shakes the ground. It's pure chaos.
Wow, it's like the storm mirrors what's happening in the cave, all this fear and turmoil.
For sure. And in all the chaos, Jackie sees her chance. She runs, terrified, back through the woods, rain pouring down, thunder booming all around her.
Can you imagine? Running blind through the storm, heart pounding, not knowing what's behind you. But it also makes you think, what about the other kids? What happened back there?
That's the big question, right? The story leaves us with Jackie escaping, the mystery of the cave still hanging. And then, 2 days later.
2 days later, they find the body of a 6-year-old boy, Jeremy Schaefer, in that cave. Tied up, tortured, murdered.
It's just awful. And for Jackie, it hits her. She could have been the victim. She barely escaped something truly horrible.
Man, the story takes such a dark turn. It's not just a creepy encounter anymore. It's real evil, you know? Makes you wonder if there are monsters hiding in plain sight.
It really does make you question everything. Years later, Jackie, now an adult, goes back to the cave. It shows you how much that day affected her.
Yeah, like she's trying to face her past, to understand it somehow.
But going back doesn't give her any answers. The cave's just a hangout spot for teenagers now, all graffiti and trash. No trace of what happened. But the feeling, the atmosphere, it's still there.
It's like the trauma is soaked into the place itself, even if you can't see it anymore.
And Jackie doesn't just revisit the cave. She also finds Mariah, one of the kids from that day. It's a tense meeting. So much left unsaid.
Oh, that's gotta be rough. Trying to get answers after all this time, but knowing there are things left unspoken.
Totally. So Jackie asks about Dustin, and Mariah just shuts down. Says he's still around, and that's it. It's like a glimpse into something dark, but the door slams shut before you can see anything.
And that makes Dustin even more suspicious, right? Like he could be involved in something way worse than just bullying. But no one's talking.
And get this, Jackie finds out there have been other kids who went missing in Bloomington over the years. Cases that are just like Jeremy Schaefer's. Makes you wonder if it's all connected, if Dustin's behind it all.
Now that's a terrifying thought, like a pattern of evil that no one noticed.
But here's the catch. Jackie doesn't know for sure. No proof. Just memories, trauma, and the chilling possibility that she knows a murderer but can't do anything about it.
Man, talk about a burden to carry. To think you might know the truth about something so horrible, but you can't prove it.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it? That maybe we walk past danger every day without even realizing it. That the monsters in our nightmares could be real, hiding right in front of us.
Makes you realize we don't know as much as we think we do.
It's crazy how Jackie takes this personal experience and ties it into a real-life mystery.
Yeah, like she's weaving together her own scary experience and these unsolved cases. It's both fascinating and disturbing.
You said it. And what makes it even more interesting is we're seeing it all through her eyes, years later. So it's her memories, her perspective on what happened, and that adds a whole other level to it.
Right, because memories can be tricky, especially when something traumatic happens. They can change how we see things, make us doubt what we thought we knew.
No doubt about it.
Hmm.
And the story doesn't try to hide that. Jackie admits she doesn't have all the answers, that she's putting together pieces of what she remembers and what she thinks might have happened.
It's interesting that the story doesn't try to neatly wrap everything up. It leaves you with this lingering sense of ambiguity, almost like unfinished business. And that can be more unsettling than a clear-cut answer.
It makes you face the possibility that we might never know the whole truth, that some mysteries just stay unsolved.
And that's where the real power of this story lies, I think. It taps into our deepest fear of the unknown, of the darkness that might be hiding just out of sight.
Makes you wonder how well we really know the people around us, if we can even trust our own gut feelings.
It's a reminder that even in normal, everyday places, there can be darkness lurking right under the surface.
And that sometimes the only thing between us and danger is just dumb luck or fate,
Right.
or, in Jackie's case, a perfectly timed thunderstorm.
It's a sobering thought for sure, but worth thinking about. If we admit that darkness exists, we can be better prepared to deal with it, you know?
So, as we dig deeper into Jackie's story, let's keep all this in mind. Let's look at how memory works, how trauma shapes our reality, and that uncomfortable truth that we might be living next to monsters without even knowing it.
Let's face the mystery head on and let ourselves be drawn in by the unknown.
One of the most interesting things about this whole thing is where it takes place. Bloomington, Indiana. Seems like a typical Midwestern town, a place that feels safe and familiar.
And yet, as the story unfolds, you start to see that even in the most peaceful-looking places, there can be something sinister going on underneath.
It's like the setting itself becomes a character, silently watching everything unfold.
And the story really plays with that contrast between the idyllic surface and the darkness underneath. It's like a classic horror movie trope, and it works perfectly here.
Makes you question the whole idea of safety, doesn't it? Like, can we ever really know a place, or the people in it, for that matter?
Right. It reminds us that even in places we feel comfortable, there can be hidden secrets, dangers lurking in the shadows.
And I think that's why so many people can relate to this story. It's universal. It speaks to that basic fear of the unknown, of the things that might be out there that we can't even see.
And that fear is even stronger when we're kids, when the world feels so much bigger and scarier.
Definitely. What Jackie went through, being led into the woods by those older, threatening kids, it's like something out of every kid's nightmare.
It brings back that feeling of being powerless, of having no control over what's happening to you.
And then being trapped in that cave, the darkness, the isolation, it just makes it all so much worse.
The cave becomes a symbol of vulnerability, of how fragile childhood innocence really is.
And then finding Jeremy Schaefer's body in that same cave, it shatters any illusion of safety, makes the horror real and inescapable.
It's a harsh reminder that evil is out there and it can strike anywhere at any time.
And for Jackie, it's a sudden realization that it could have been her, that she barely dodged a terrible fate.
That's probably what drives her to go back to the cave years later, I think. It's an attempt to face her past, to make some sense of it all.
But like we talked about, going back doesn't give her any clear answers. The cave's just a place for teenagers to hang out now. No sign of what happened there.
But the feeling, the weight of what happened, it's still there, soaked into the place. It's a reminder that trauma can leave a permanent mark even if you can't see it.
And it leaves a mark on the people who were there too.
Absolutely. Which brings us back to the mystery of Dustin. Is he just a bully from Jackie's past, or is he something much darker?
It's a question that hangs over the entire story, and Jackie's still trying to figure it out.
And it's a question we're left to ponder as well as listeners.
As we continue to explore Jackie's story, let's remember the power of memory, how our perceptions can be tricky, and that unsettling possibility that we might be living among monsters without even knowing it.
Let's embrace the mystery and let ourselves get lost in the unknown.
This story is like a puzzle with missing pieces, and we're left trying to figure out what the picture is supposed to be.
And that's what makes it so good. It gets our imaginations going, makes us want to solve the mystery ourselves.
We become detectives, looking for clues, trying to make sense of the evidence.
And just like a real mystery, there are red herrings, confusing details, and you can't always trust what people say.
Which brings us back to Dustin. He's the big question mark in all of this. The bully who might be a killer. The ghost from Jackie's past.
The story never really tells us for sure what's up with him. It leaves us with this creepy feeling that he might be responsible, a seed of doubt that just grows in your mind.
It's almost like the story saying, you decide. Was Dustin just a mean kid, or was he something much worse?
That's what makes it so interesting. It doesn't give you easy answers. It makes you think about what's right and wrong, about how complicated people can be.
It makes you realize that good and evil aren't always black and white, that there's a lot of gray area in between.
And that even people who seem totally normal can do terrible things.
This story also makes you think about how our memories work and how trauma changes the way we see things.
Yeah, what Jackie remembers about that day in the cave is all jumbled up, distorted by fear and time.
And when she meets up with Mariah years later, it just adds to the confusion. You can tell Mariah's holding back, that she knows more than she's saying.
We never get to hear her side of the story, so we're left wondering what her secrets are, what she's hiding.
It's like another layer of mystery, another piece of the puzzle missing. We get glimpses of the truth, but never the whole picture.
Which is kind of like life itself, right? We're always trying to understand our own stories, to find meaning in what happens to us.
And a lot of times, our stories are messy, incomplete, full of questions we can't answer.
But that's all right. It's those gaps, those unanswered questions that make our imaginations run wild.
And it's in those spaces, when we don't have all the answers, that we learn the most about ourselves and the world.
So as we wrap up this chilling tale, let's appreciate how powerful it is, how complex, and how it sticks with us long after we've heard it.
Let's hold on to those uneasy feelings, the questions it brought up, and the truths it hinted at.
And let's remember those things as we go about our lives, always aware of the shadows that might be lurking just out of sight.
Who knows? Maybe you have a story like Jackie's a close call, a mystery that's never been solved, something that left you feeling creeped out. Tell us about it in the comments. Let's keep exploring the dark side together.